This President's Day, I'd like to thank Donald Trump.
President Trump, thank you for all you've done the past 4 years. Thank you for giving a voice to Americans who felt overlooked for so long.
Thank you, President Trump.
I want to talk about Texas for a moment, where Trump's election lies just got a step closer to becoming an official part of the Republican platform.
It was voted on over the weekend at the Texas GOP convention in Houston, and the new platform it's a lot. I'll give you the whole rundown here. It goes on to agree to, quote, oppose all efforts to validate transgender identity, and calls homosexuality a, quote, abnormal life choice, close quote.
The Log Cabin Republicans, a long-standing gay Republican organization, has been denied access to the Texas GOP convention. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and I actually knew one of these guys a while back. He was my boss, I think. I remember him telling me that he was a Log Cabin Republican, and I remember thinking that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of, but at the time, I figured, whatever, people have their own reasons for believing the things that they believe in, or their own reasons for aligning themselves with certain ideologies. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. In a world of political polarization, it's unreasonable to expect everyone from any particular group to agree on an entire platform of ideas, goals, and methodologies, even if those ideas, goals, and methodologies are rooted within the same value system. People will have their own thresholds for understanding and tolerance. They'll have their own plans on how to achieve something that may be incompatible with someone else's. This is a thing that I think, and don't hate me for saying this, progressives tend to forget too. We're not immune to this. We all want more or less the same things, but each individual's life experiences and worldviews bring different perspectives to the table apart from what the prevailing rhetoric dictates, and that's a good thing. A lot of you won't agree with some of the things that I say in this video. The minute we stop embracing and considering fresh ideas, though, we stop thinking for ourselves, and that is a detriment of any meaningful movement.
At this weekend's GOP convention in Texas, one group found that they were not going to be allowed to set up a booth. That is the Log Cabin Republicans. They put out a statement saying, inclusion wins, which makes the Texas Republican Party's leadership's decision to exclude the Texas Log Cabin Republicans from their convention not just narrow-minded, but politically short-sighted. Now, if you're not familiar with the Log Cabin Republicans, it is an advocacy group for conservatives within the Republican Party who identify as gay. And that's been obviously a difficult position for a long time, considering how much virtually every conservative absolutely despises them.
So I'll give you the story first. The Log Cabin Republicans wanted a booth at the Texas GOP convention, but they were denied their booth. They were denied literal visibility, which is the bare minimum that any group could possibly ask for. Meanwhile, during Pride Month, no less, the Texas GOP has released its platform stating that, quote, homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. We believe that there should be no granting of special legal entitlements or creation of special status for homosexual behavior, regardless of state of origin. Now, first of all, I don't need to tell any of you that homosexuality or anywhere else that anyone might fall on the immense spectrum of human sexuality is not a choice. That word choice is regressive and harmful. It deliberately rejects someone's individualism and lived experience in favor of something that is safe and closed-minded. Secondly, those special legal entitlements aren't special at all. They're the same legal rights that everyone else has. That's it. Or, as a friend of mine put it, who is a Texan and a member of the LGBTQ community, they want us dead. Now, my friend's feelings towards the Texas GOP platform aren't necessarily echoed amongst the Log Cabin Republicans. In fact, they reject it. For instance, they're outspoken supporters of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, and they're strong critics of people like Chasten Buttigieg, who works as an activist for the rights and well-being of LGBTQ youth. They said in a statement, quote, contrary to Chasten Buttigieg's LGBTQ fear-mongering and attempt for attention on CNN, Florida's parental rights and education bill will not silence gay people. It will certainly not kill them. All it does is reinforce the common sense belief that teacher-led classroom discussions around sexual and gender identity do not belong in primary schools. They go on to say, quote, with a projected Democrat slaughter ahead in the 2022 midterm elections and hardcore progressives seeing their wet dreams of gender fluid, indoctrinated, and groomed children slipping from their grasp, activists are fighting back against parental rights bills by using outrageous scare tactics and other propaganda. As progressives, and I'm going to be critical of progressives for a second, so just bear with me, We're always wondering why people seem to vote against their own interests, which is a really presumptuous thing that we say. It makes sense to us, but it shouldn't be a surprise whenever that argument doesn't work for people. What do they say every time? How could you possibly know what's in my best interest? And there's a lot of reasons why people vote the way that they do, and sometimes those reasons don't make any sense to us. We can psychoanalyze people and try to get into their headspace. We can minimize their entire beings and reduce them to a single buzzword, or we can think that they are stupid and chastise them for being stupid and for holding back humanity with their stupidity. Again, it shouldn't be any surprise when that backfires on us. Now, I can't explain to you why these log cabin Republicans are Republicans. I don't understand why they so desperately want to be included in a group that so clearly not only doesn't want to include them, but doesn't even respect them enough to see them as people worthy of happiness and legal protections. I'm not ever going to understand why they've bought into the GOP rhetoric around grooming and indoctrination. Now, it's one thing to be a traditional Republican in the sense that you're into small government and corporate leniency, whatever, but these log cabin Republicans have played into the identity politics aspect of the GOP's platform, which is basically the GOP's entire platform at this point. The Trevor Project found that, quote, LGBTQ youth are not inherently prone to suicide risk because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, but rather placed at higher risk because of how they are mistreated and stigmatized in society. They also found that LGBTQ youth are 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers, and they estimate that more than 1.8 million LGBTQ youth seriously consider suicide each year in the US, and at least 1 attempts suicide every 45 seconds. I don't know why the log cabin Republicans don't understand that firsthand. Maybe they were the lucky ones who never felt stigmatized or discriminated against growing up, and truly good for them if that was the case. Good for them if they never had to feel that. But I also don't know how they don't have more empathy for others like them who have borne the full brunt of that stigmatization and discrimination. Surely there has to be some kind of understanding to be found in there somewhere, right? So real quick, let's talk about Wedge Issues. I was just rewatching the Netflix miniseries on the family, and it's about an evangelical Christian organization that has infiltrated governments around the world, including ours. It's next level cultism in that everyone affiliated with this organization, including US presidents, bends to the will and whims of its leader. The family's goal is to transform the world through Christian indoctrination, funding mission projects in the most remote parts of the planet, and cavorting with warlords in an effort to heal through Jesus, I guess. But something that stood out to me on this rewatch was the idea of wedge issues. Wedge issues are issues that are intentionally divisive. They're meant to split a group, in this case an electorate, in a deliberate effort to polarize. That way, people will vote the way you want them to based on 1 or 2 wedge issues. For example, if you're generally aligned with the Democratic political platform, but for personal reasons you are adamantly against abortion, you would at least consider voting as a Republican because you can't stomach the idea of abortion being legal in this country. It doesn't and shouldn't have anything to do with politics, apart from the logistics of making sure women have adequate access to health care. But it's been made a political issue. Now the GOP can't let go of it because they might lose some voters if they soften their messaging around abortion and women's health in general. LGBTQ rights are a wedge issue in this country, and something younger people might forget is that widespread acceptance of the LGBTQ community is still fairly recent. Not to be ageist, but many Americans, especially older ones, are still trying to understand something that they just haven't been exposed to for the majority of their lives. The GOP, I'm sure, knows this. They also know that people are afraid of that which they do not understand. So in order to achieve their political ends, they've demonized this entire community of people and made them a political target for those who are unwilling or unable to learn and grow. But speaking of growth, as a progressive movement that is hoping to grow with compassion for others as its primary tenet, we have to ask, why are these log cabin Republicans so reluctant to embrace the party that at the very least doesn't attempt to strip them of their rights, deny them their visibility, or discredit their lifestyle? As a progressive movement, we can't forget why we are progressives. Why did we gravitate to this movement in the first place? Why did we seek out videos like this one? We can't forget why any of us are here watching this video or anything else that my progressive colleagues put out. We're progressives because we believe in the potential of not just this country as an institution, but in the limitlessness of human ingenuity and empathy. We believe that there is hope for a better future if we can just get past the hate, the fear, the bureaucracy, the corruption, and all of the other things that ultimately don't matter. It's a long shot and maybe even a pipe dream, we know that, but it's a dream that we all think is worth striving for. Any movement towards better inclusion, better acceptance, and better support structures is a good thing, and we need to remember to celebrate those wins instead of saying it's not enough. It won't ever be enough. There will always be problems to solve, and once we solve those, there will be new problems to solve. There will always be terrible people with terrible intentions that we have to work around, and whenever we accomplish that, someone else will take that terrible person's place. The work does not end, and it will not end, and even if that means fighting for people like the Log Cabin Republicans, who we don't really understand, to have a booth at the Texas GOP convention, that's part of it. We can support them in their fight against discrimination because we stand against discrimination. But we can do that while still working to connect with them and understand their viewpoint. We're not going to win anyone over unless we start there. It's so funny because whenever I talk about things like this, people on the internet always think that I'm too optimistic or idealistic, which is fine. In any movement, you need people like me and you need people not like me for it to work. But in my personal life, I'm literally never told that. I don't consider myself a positive person in that sense. I'd actually say I'm quite cynical most of the time, sometimes even maybe like a closeted anarchist, but the thing that keeps me going isn't me. It's the idea that somewhere, someone's life might be made a little bit better by all of these collective progressive efforts. And if we're not fighting for that, then what are we even doing here?